Mankind scares Al Snow off, and he even goes to swing a chair at Al, showing he's not above that because Al has gone too far. It's another edition of Tales from the Attitude Era. I am Rob Pasbani, joined as always by the former head writer of WWE during the era that we're reviewing. Of course, Tommy Blacha's here.
Era.
The era.
That's how Triple H said it. Era.
The era. This
Is it
business.
Is it era or era? I like them
I think
both.
it's era. But I was very excited for this episode. Of course, last week's episode, blockbuster episode of the show. We're getting a lot of positive feedback from the Western Heritage attitudinals about enjoying last week's episode. So I was very curious about this episode.
I wonder why. Was there more insight? Was it just more of a, I don't know.
Well, it's a very memorable episode of Raw.
True.
So to get a little peek behind the curtain was always very exciting. And for me personally, after recording that episode, I was like, how are they going to possibly follow this up? This is going to be a hot edition of SmackDown. So I was very...
that was always the sword of Damocles hanging over. You know, even when you had a good show, it was like, wow. Then like, now what? Fuck. You know. But,
that's what I was thinking. Like, now what? Like, where do they go? Because this is a pretty major angle. And, you know, Triple H broke the law. You know, this goes beyond just the wrestling bubble. It's like, how are you going to deal with this and advance the storyline?
Well, it is murky. And there's that thing of always like, you know, putting Stephanie in that hot spot. This was really like, this was classic, like a soap opera. You know what I mean? It was so, just that whole angle is so, it's not even wrestling. It's right out of like, you know, soap opera. Like, oh, the bride. Oh, but she was drugged. But is she in on it? I don't know. And then, you know, the fiance, what, you know, so you just kind of like followed all those things. It really had nothing to do with like wrestling as we're talking about it. Like, okay, if you were to logically follow it, it was like, oh, we're at One Life to Live or whatever, General Hospital writer's room. Okay, she was drugged, but what if she's in on it, or is she? Well, how long can we do that? But the family, what would they say? And she's a victim, boy, you know what I mean? Just throwing all that shit out there and like, okay, and also just kind of slowly feeding it and not really knowing exactly where they're going, which I imagine it's like that in soap operas too. It's always the same. It's like, where are you going with this? I don't know. Everything's on the table. And then we decide, are we going to make her evil and complicit or totally a victim? I don't know yet. You know what I mean? So
you're saying at this point, you did not have in mind what the ending for the Armageddon match was. You're still going back and forth on it.
Well, again, certainly. But as usual, 5 things are at play at all times. You know what I mean? So there was like, you know, you're kind of leaning towards one way. And at the same time, with that bottleneck that is Vince, like anything, it's like, well, we got this, we got that. What did he say? I don't know. Shit, he left the room. I think it's going to be this. Yeah, probably. But I don't know. You know what I mean? There's always that at play, you know, and then, you know.
And also you just have to do a huge reshuffle because your main star is going to be gone for a year.
Right.
So I could see how it's still a little chaotic. And you can kind of see it, though, with the way the storylines are kind of finally just now starting to settle. In the sense of like who's linked with who in programs. But even still, you have people like the New Age Outlaws. They're peripherally involved. Peripherally.
Did you just make up a new awesome word? Peripherally? That's like something on the side that you want to happen. Well, peripherally.
You're right. It's something preferable on the peripheral.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
They're in the McMahon Triple H storyline, but they also have their own program going on with The Rock and Mick Foley. And they're kind of starting something with the Hardys a little bit on this episode. So it's interesting to see how so many things are interweaving, which I think makes for the best pro wrestling television when everything starts to kind of cross over each other.
And it's also kind of handy when you want to get out of something because you always have a run-in that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Run-ins don't have... I'm always pet peeve when run-ins make no sense. You know what I mean? But like, they don't have to, like, they just have to make some sense, you know, like, if they, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and that's really like the go-to kind of finish, I feel, in this moment in time in pro wrestling. Is just like, how do we end it? Send someone out there.
Yeah.
And so nobody looks weak. Like, I think on this episode, there was like 4 of them.
Yeah. They're coming in probably because of this. Oh, this is, you know, as a result of this. And
yeah.
You know,
all right, well, let's get through it. Well, not let's get to it, not through it. Let's get through it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Our court mandated podcast, our community service. Like, I was drunk driving, and well, I got to do a wrestling podcast.
So it kicks off with an incredible montage. I would argue this montage was better than the actual segment, because it, in the sense that it like put everything in neatly. And there was no dead air. It was just like 5 minutes, and you got everything out of the half-hour segment that was on Monday. You know?
No, you're absolutely right. But to defend it, and sometimes it's like this with a live show. Like a live show, then when you watch it after, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of flat and long. But there was such buildup, so there was like extended time for that, like wedding, like look around, who's going to be involved. So you know what I mean? It's like a live event. Like even football games. Like who the fuck rewatches a football game? Even, you know what I mean? A Super Bowl, that's or something like point. You're not going to sit there and, you know, so that's what's great about a live event. So yeah, once, you know, especially nowadays, once that's gone, now I want the bite-sized fucking version.
And I want to be clear, I'm not knocking. I thought it was a phenomenal.
Sounded segment. Like a knock.
I was just, as I said last week on the rewatch, because I don't have the shock moment of like, you know, it felt a little long, like it could have been a little tighter. But this was perfect, and it was so cheesy with the little glow and the song in the background, everyone walking out, and then Triple H crashes.
Yep, that was such a pleasure. I know people in the studio like here, just feeding them a lot of stuff, and like, you know, it was a pretty, like, I think a lot of those people that ended up working at WWF, then now, in the studio, really liked. They came from different parts of TV generally in New York, but I know a lot of them spoke like glowingly about like, what a great job. We went in there and then we got all this stuff. It was kind of like news, and then we had carte blanche to like make it like corny, do whatever. And the pace was such that you didn't get a lot of notes, like a lot of times in TV, like, oh, let me see this edit. I don't know. Did so-and-so see it? It was so fast. You had to like, here you go. This is for next week. Go. So like, and Vince stayed away from a lot of that stuff, I know. And so there wasn't like a lot of micromanaging of graphics and you know, video montages and stuff. It was just like, we were all like, let's see what they did. Oh, looks great. You know what I mean? How long was it? 5 minutes. Okay, let's, you know, map out the rest of the show. Top notch.
Yeah, no, I think this was definitely the moment where WWE had the best production team in all of sports. Like, not just pro wrestling. Like, forget, you know, WCW.
You could
like,
argue that.
The NFL couldn't match these packages, I think.
Unmatched.
Then we see in the garage, we see Vince McMahon with a bat and Shane McMahon pleading with him. Please, it's not worth going to jail over this. You know, like, we'll settle this. We'll figure it out. Don't do this. Don't ruin your life. Like, he's going to kill Triple H, you know, like, don't murder him. You know,
and again, these are tried and true soap opera stuff, because you did, there's such a culmination of all these testosterone laden people, and you get to a point you really think like, my God, this guy drugged his daughter, and what is he, you know, and
it's a pretty heavy story.
It's very heavy. So you do have to, thank God you do go to that thing of like, it's not worth going to jail for. You have to invoke that, which sometimes people have a problem with in pro wrestling when it gets too much invoking like jail and authority and all this, and that's all murky, but you kind of have to, because otherwise it'd be like, well, why wouldn't he kill him? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Like point, what worse could Triple H do to Vince McMahon? Like, this is arguably the worst thing he could have done to him. And also a little illegal, as we've mentioned.
Sure.
No one talking about Triple H going to jail, by the way.
Yeah.
Everyone overlooks that. But I like this. And and obviously, logically, it makes perfect sense for Vince to be this angry. Like, he's acting completely within his character.
Right.
And I would argue if he wasn't acting like this, it wouldn't make sense.
Right. You're right. And just to let people know, you do talk about everything. And there is like sometimes, well, how should I put it? Like sometimes just dynamics or whatever trumps logic. Because to follow you got to use logic, but to follow everything, you like you'd say, we remember talking like, well, wouldn't Triple H be arrested or wouldn't he go to jail? And should we explain that? And then, well, unless she's in on it. And sometimes you just go, you know what? Fucking don't bring it up. Sometimes the more you explain something, the more of a hole you dig yourself. So, as long as like it's exciting and it's moving forward and we got that, so basically, and like any fucking movie or anything, you start to like, oh, wait a minute. Now, wouldn't this like, fuck that, move past it, and it's fine.
It's so funny because I feel like AEW does that. They try to go out of their way to explain why something is logical. And it's exactly what you're saying, where if they didn't explain it, everyone would have just moved on.
Right.
But because they explain, it's like, what? That sounds ridiculous. Like, I can't think of a specific example right now. But
no, but I know what you mean. Because it's an issue. Because even with this, it's a big issue. And it's kind of like, but then you feel like, he's hot. He's got a bat. His son's saying it's not worth it. He's intense. So we don't need to go to the like, some, excuse me, wouldn't, I mean? It's like everyone's emotions are high, so things are illogical anyway sometimes and heated, and you just, you go with those kind of flows of storytelling, and it's exactly right. Like, you know what? Yeah. The more you explain, the more you don't. Like we always said, I think I brought it up before, when my friend Will Sasso did his Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, you don't explain that he talks like this and he's a sheriff named John Williams from Colorado. Like, what? Should we explain how he was orphaned, but he grew up in Austria? No, fuck it. He's got an accent. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, it's okay.
He works for the FBI. Doesn't matter. It's like, move ahead.
And naturally, the show starts with Stephanie. I like that she didn't come out to any entrance music. Obviously, she doesn't really have any entrance music at this point. She's not an active performer.
Right.
And it would be weird if she came out to No Chance in Hell.
In fact, it was so great because she was so great at this point because she was kind of like, she was young and she was so vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Yes,
even though she was a participant.
She was so vulnerable.
She wasn't someone going out like, it was like, and her walking out with like no music and just like what she's just like, oh my God, it was like so great. Like, she's so vulnerable, but wait, but is she in this? I don't know. And, it just was like.
Yeah, this is only like the second storyline really that she's been involved in. The only other one was the Ministry of Darkness thing where Undertaker kidnapped her to try to make her his wife. Sacrifice her or whatever.
And then also in true soap opera fashion, hey, what about, she's so innocent, but what about that we don't know? That don't exist anymore. That's fucking. Yeah, forget it.
I thought she did great here.
Yeah.
This is one of her first on mic appearances. Obviously she's been on mic before, she's been on camera before, but never just completely on her own with no one there to help her or lead her through it. She was out there without a net, and she did great. Like you said, she looks so vulnerable. And I like that the announcers were defending her, saying she didn't know what was happening. Cole said that she was being tricked. And Lawler ponders, well, was she being tricked? Are we sure that she was being tricked? Which is a great question for a heel to ask, and great foreshadowing, even though I'm sure you don't know where the main event result is headed, but you're leaving the door open in case you decide to go that way.
Absolutely. And in fact, when you're talking these things out, it's almost like sometimes you got to like slow down and be like, well, what is going on? It's like, well, let's have, that's what's so great about having the announcers. We're like, let's have whatever we're questioning. Let's have the announcers question. She's obviously a victim. Is she? And like, oh, perfect. Like I said, Jim Ross, she's obviously a victim. And Lawler will say, well, I don't know. Let's bring up this like doubtful stuff. And then everyone can be, I don't know. Cause that's what you want. Like a soap opera, people there. I think she's in on it. I don't know if she is. And even I remember talking about this too, like her acting. And just saying, no, she's perfect. She's vulnerable. Throw the camera on her. Let the moment be too big for you. Just be out there. That was the wonderful, odd thing about the pro wrestling business was like, it wasn't like, well, you're an actor you have to like, in a TV show, you have to know things about your mark and your camera. Like, no, this is like kind of just being a person in a live event in this situation. So just go with it. You know what I mean? So it was almost like, don't anyone, because some people would bring up, should she go to some kind of acting classes? Like, no, get away. She's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It worked. It worked like that she was rough around. It made it more believable.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It should be rough around the edges. Should be a camera in there, her not knowing like what, and walking out there with no music and not selling. So just being like, vulnerable. Everything she sold, like, it was just like, don't change a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there was even a point where she goes to hug Vince and Shane or like talk to them, and she has her back to the hard camera. A cardinal sin in WWE, but it's fine. You
couldn't. In fact, dude, sometimes I look at things too, and just some of that blocking is unnatural when you're getting in emotional, moments. And then like we talked before, man, I remember seeing things with like Dick Slater and Jake the Snake Roberts back in Mid-Atlantic, how he's like, you're not going to use the DDT. There was like backs to the camera. It was like, it was so intense. Yeah. It was such a mess, but it was like
the camera would find the wrestler. It's not the wrestler that needs to find the camera.
And the emotion came through. Like you watch any event that's a scuffle or whatever, it's not blocked perfectly, with people like, we need to see the, you know what I mean? It's like warts and all. It's like, as they say, and you're exactly right. It's like the emotions override the moment. It's kind of like, let the apparatus find it, as if it would be in, if you watched a sporting event, like, and the fucking quarterback was ready to punch the head coach in some fucking crazy thing, you wouldn't have the camera. Could you move? We can't see your anger. What? Fuck up. You know what I mean? And you just like, you just get it. I agree. Total agreement.
Stephanie asks her father and her brother to come out. She takes full responsibility. She says she blames herself because she shouldn't have been drinking, and she certainly shouldn't have taken that last shot from a bartender she never even met before. Right. There were other people in the room. Who else let that bartender there? And why is that guy not arrested for kidnapping?
Amazing. Well, it's just unfolding. We're just finding this out.
We don't know his name or his identity, even though he's been on national television.
One might think too that she should have like said this in private with some authorities, but no, this is the McMahon family.
Right.
This must be. We owe it to the fans to air all this out.
Also, that she hasn't talked to Vince or Shane in 3 days or
travel
or test even.
We're out in the West Coast. Yeah. He was so distraught. He was back at the hotel.
Yeah,
she
he ran
was
off
beside herself. Yeah. We don't need to explain this.
Shane and Vince are still backstage in the garage. It's a garage.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm being extra enunciated.
Yeah, that one was weird.
It's how the Brits say garage. But they're in the I was about to say it again, in the garage. Right. And one of the Hebners, I believe Dave Hebner, runs up and says, "Steph, she's in the ring. She's calling for you guys. Quick."
Right.
And then she's back in the ring. She's saying she feels disgusted, cheap, and violated. She will never forgive Triple H for wrecking her life, which is the first time we see her vitriol to Triple H. And she's kind of like a friendly fire victim in all of this because she's never done anything to Triple H, but she had to suffer, being drugged and possibly date raped.
Let me go with that one thing, since this is a inside baseball minutia.
Yes.
The believe it or not, we do talk about like when, just Hebner going to the limo and being like, she's in the ring. Those dumb things that are dumb, that don't seem to have any merit, actually do, because there's a lot. And I feel this way sometimes about the product is nowadays is like, it's all contrived. Like it's all hyper contrived. Like, why would this happen out in the ring? Whatever. But sometimes when you have like, you feel too much like everyone's at the gorilla position waiting to come out, right? And the participants, like a play or something. It's sometimes, I don't know, it takes a little something away. So even having them coming in the limo just really adds this sense of like, everyone's showing up. This is just getting pulled off. This is intense. What's happening? Where is she? She's out there. We got to get in. Those little things actually seem like nothing, but they do they do add up to like a weirder experience of like this being like, oh, this is a happening. This is intense. This is all unfolding, as opposed to this contrived.
Unplanned.
Like, now here's another participant and here's another participant, which I think it seems too controlled and contrived a lot nowadays. I like those little wrinkles, and we were always putting those little wrinkles in, even like going out, someone's putting up their boots, in the locker room. It all does add up, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so they come out, and she says she knows what they want to do, and she doesn't want them to help her. This is her problem. She has to handle it herself.
Yep.
And they have to promise her, which I'm just like, what do you mean? Like the issues with, I mean, I get it. I guess the divorce,
sure,
all this stuff, the annulment, I guess it would be.
But also it's like one of those things too, like, okay. I'd be like, time out. What are you saying, Rob? That you're finding some problems with her? This whole scenario that she's in? Like, yeah, man, there's a few problems with it, sure.
Yeah, there's...
Wait a minute. Is this really all her problem? Yeah, maybe not. She's a confused young woman who's going through a traumatic thing, okay?
You're right.
Some of the logic may be wonky, but she wants to deal with it herself. Her whole life, she's been under the thumb of Vince and everything, and all this has happened, and she wants to say she's got to do it for herself. Even though I'm sure Shane and Vince don't agree, she is going to be steadfast about that. There.
So this is when she has her back to the camera, when she's talking to them, and she says they have to promise her that they handle this her way, so she can hold some shred of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And Shane promises right away, obviously, which I thought was very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince, it's very hard for Vince to promise. He can't. And she's very like crying, and he relents, I guess.
And it is another device to always, that's always the ebb and flow of wrestling, and everything is like, okay, time for them to get their revenge. Why wouldn't they? They'll look fucked if they don't get the revenge. Here's just another device to be like, but I promised my daughter. You know what I mean? And, shit like as whatever it is, like it works.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Backstage, then we see Viscera freshening up, thinking about the lines he's going to tell Tori.
Thank God you weren't giving notes to the fucking broadcasters and the announcers. There's Viscera freshening up.
Well, he was like putting on a little cologne, thinking about the stuff he's gonna tell Tori.
Look, Vince, I think Pasbani's a fine announcer, but freshening up, he's fired. Fuck.
How should Backstage Viscera's getting ready for action?
Better,
he's a little horny. coming up with lines.
He's gotta be fresh.
Kane will have none of this. Kane must have been in the dressing room with Viscera, in the male dressing room where Viscera's freshening up, and he didn't like the scent. So Kane attacks Viscera as we go to break. After break, the melee continues, this time down the ramp, and the ref is there. So we decide, let's have the match now.
Sure. Why not?
The first distraction of the night happens in this match. A few minutes in, Kane dominating Viscera, which makes sense. Kane is in an active program, Viscera not. X-Pac comes out, and he says that when he spin kicked Tori on Raw this past Monday, he lied. It wasn't an accident. He meant to do it.
Oh, brutal.
What a terrible what a degenerate.
Yeah. Reprehensible.
Kane is just so upset by this that he is outside walking slowly towards X-Pac and gets counted out. Viscera gets the victory. Kane can't handle this and runs back in and attacks Viscera to prove he's still a tough guy. And then he points at X-Pac, does the throat symbol. He's going to cut his throat off, and he does the fire. Here's my question here.
Yes.
Why did this match need an inconclusive finish? Why did Viscera need to be protected here? Why couldn't Kane have just destroyed him? And then X-Pac comes out and said, I meant to do it. And then he just chases X-Pac.
I suppose it could. I would say, is a clean finish in this thing really like, are people being like, oh, I'm feeling ripped off because that wasn't a clean finish between Viscera and Kane? I don't think so. And one could argue, and honestly, I think that was, one of those like, oh, it could, but also it would be like, we already have this, he's peeling off and he's fucking pissed off about, X-Pac. One could argue that maybe he should have gotten the pinfall to get him even more fucking distracted and pissed off. So at the same time, like, just, leave it like that. Let that storyline go. Right. Maybe just the clean finish kind of gets in the way, maybe.
My argument for the clean finish would be that you have like 2 or 3 other interferences later on in the show, which I feel are more maybe necessary to protect the other person than Viscera needs protection.
Oh, you're one of those clean finish smart marks, huh? Bothered by the non-clean finish.
No. Well, I am a clean finish smart mark. Absolutely. But in this case, it's more of a sense of not repeating to not repeat yourself too much throughout the show. That's why I bring it up here. And I want to be clear. I'm going into this era knowing there will be minimal clean finishes. Yeah. And if anything, it's very intriguing to me to see how you change it up. So it's not always the exact same non-clean finish. Right. Because that's the challenge at this point. And I do remember like a year or two after this, there were so many non-clean finishes that it's like, all right, we really got to get back to just a pinfall.
And also you might remember that this was the beginning of this seed that made you clean finish smart mark 2 decades later. That's true. This was the beginning of like, maybe at the end, like this kind of, you know what? We're not getting any clean finishes lately. It's a little
another interruption.
Yeah, so I would argue, but it's but it is true. I agree with you. Sometimes you do have to go back to that point and be like, oh, this was the start of the non-clean finishes. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't such an issue yet, and at the time, kind of like, I think it probably everything's talked out like we just talked it out. Like, hey, well, actually, if Viscera were to pin him, that would be better for Viscera, and then Kane's so pissed off at X-Pac, he'd peel off. But then would Viscera hold it over his head? You start to overthink, and then maybe clean.
And there's no follow-up. It's not like you're giving Viscera a program. He doesn't need it.
Right. So like, do that, So that would be. But, no, it's good.
Yeah, I didn't mean to overanalyze it. I'm just curious. No. Like I was just curious.
But what's funny to go back, this almost exact same conversation is like the kind of conversations you'd constantly have about everything. You'd be like, oh, what about this? Or what about that? And then like, let's settle on this. As a lot of things are a compromise and then, but not a big faux pas nonetheless.
No, not at all. Just something I noticed.
And we coined the phrase clean finish smart mark.
Yeah, there we go.
A CFSM. Oh, you're one of those CFSMs.
If you are a CFSM, please leave a comment. I want to start a CFSM army.
Yeah, CFSM army. Yes.
Let's see the CFSM army out there. You could also email us, tftattitudeera@gmail.com. I want to know who else is a clean finish
CFSM. And can you be a Western Heritage listener and a CFSM? I guess you could.
Or the counter, the run-in brigade, the RIB.
Yeah, the run-in brigade. Just love run-ins.
Yeah, and it's a brigade, so there's a lot of them. It's a melee.
Yeah, used to be a battalion, but it got too big.
So backstage, Al Snow is watching the moment from Raw where The Rock turns on him and gives him the people's elbow. He's watching it over and over again, like a psychopath, because that's who Al Snow is, him and Head. Yeah. Mick Foley comes in and he tries to diffuse the situation, saying, oh, it was all just a little misunderstanding. Al Snow says, no way, it was on purpose. And he's flipping out. And he says he can't be held accountable for what he's about to do to The Rock. Which sets up a lot of stuff later.
Since
on.
Legal things, are, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Since he can drug the boss's daughter and do this.
Since the authorities are showing up. Oh, and you know what? I want to say this is the first, I wanted to pay attention to this before I started watching, but I'm just now realizing this is the first SmackDown since this whole parent television cancel thing where WWE has said that they were going to scale back the raunchiness on SmackDown only.
Right.
And they did. Like, at least on this episode, there's no Godfather.
Right.
Val Venus doesn't do his porno shtick. He just does a run-in.
Right.
There's no real like TNA at all. So this was a pretty conservative episode of SmackDown. Like there was a conscious effort here.
There certainly was.
Because I was laughing how on Raw it was the opposite. It was like you went even harder.
Right. Well, things were in motion. They couldn't do it right away. And, advertisers are important. That makes sense. And as VKM said, stand before you a beaten man, we will, but it's like, till the dust settles, and what have you. So it's just down to just straight old violence. And even all the, really, it's one of those things where you could infer, like to write it, my God, this is a storyline involving the drugging of a woman and kidnapping and all this. But when you really watch it, it doesn't, it's not so aggressively like that. It's just more silly. You know what I mean? It's more.
You kind of brush past it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just whatever.
And so after the break, Mick Foley's looking for The Rock. This is just a nice little bit where Mick Foley steals some candy from the lobby. Then we have the Dudleys versus Edge
he likes
Christian.
to be eating during that. That was pretty, I don't know why, it was fun.
I'm into it, sure.
Yeah.
We have Dudleys versus Edge and Christian. Another great match from these two. It's so fun to see this program starting up, knowing where it's headed.
Yeah.
Their big match at WrestleMania. And just seeing the growth of these two teams and the Hardys, and they're like clearly the buzzed about acts that you're investing in for the future.
Yeah. And sometimes that would be, it'd be like mapping things out or booking, whatever. And sometimes, God, you'd almost forget. Like a lot of times it'd be like, then what are we going to do? And, sometimes almost like, God, everything can swerve and multiple super layered things because you get diminishing returns. So sometimes I say, like, just let the roster do its work, for fuck's sakes. Sometimes I would watch the old shows like from the 80s and like, oh my God, they just had matches, and had announcers call matches. And because you're always like wanting to chew up time, where this era was like, holy fuck, everything's got to be a fucking something or other. And like occasionally be like, can we just let them have a good long match?
It does feel like this era is the opposite, where like it's just like we don't have enough time for a match. Give them like 3 minutes, there's not like the match is an afterthought, which is interesting because then the pay-per-views come and you have an extra hour to fill, and you have to have the matches because this is what you're building up towards, and it ends up with kind of like a flat crowd almost. That
was the biggest thing that I felt bad for the actual, the superstars, the wrestlers. What was so difficult was you'd laying on all these shows with all this stuff and all this interference and all this skagage and in and out and transitions, and the numbers were so huge that everyone knew, like, the TV shows rule, the numbers are working, this is, the path. But sometimes these guys would be like, okay, what am I doing today? Here's your match. It's going to be third. Oh, now it's going to be first. Oh, it's shuffled. Okay, here's Pritchard. You got 5 minutes. Okay, holy shit, that promo went long. We're thinking on our feet. You now got 3 minutes. Shit. So these guys are like going over, like, a lot of times they call it out there, but you can't completely call it out there because it's like, we got to have this finish. And then they're out there 2.5 minutes. And then, the ref, you got to go home now. Like, fuck. You know what I mean? So to be thinking on your feet, to be performing on your feet with this time that's like always like being crunched. You know what I mean? And sometimes
I can't imagine.
That was just different. That would be so surprising about, like, wow. There was so many times where it was just like, wow, that was amazing. People just don't know how close that was to being like fucked up just because of a time thing. And they pulled it off. Where the house shows were sometimes so much more fun for these guys. Like, oh, and even the performers themselves, one could argue that all through the era's house shows and these long matches really taught these guys how to work, and work with each other. And sometimes when guys were coming up and like being put right into programs on TV, it's like, and suddenly they're like, oh, 3-minute matches, 4-minute matches, besides pay-per-views and, here and there. It was really difficult. So that's my 2 cents.
I thought they had a great match. They really worked hard, both teams. Yeah. Bubba Ray showing some athleticism. He did like a forward roll at one point, which I was like, what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great psychology in this match, I thought. I really enjoyed how they worked over Edge's knee, and that played into the ending of the match where Edge tried to give a Hurricane Rana, hurt his knee on the come down, and then tried to power slam Devon Dudley, and his knee gave out, and that was enough for him to not be able to continue and bridge out of the pin,
right?
Thus losing the match cleanly.
Yeah.
And then the Dudleys didn't think a clean win was enough. These dastardly heels had to attack these young boys, these poor young boys, these Hardys. And their big brother acolytes came and defended their honor.
Yes, and one more pissed off about the card game.
Right, continuing this feud and this soft turn of the acolytes that you're doing.
Yeah.
We also learned during this match that there will be a 16-team battle royal at the pay-per-view to determine the number one contenders for the tag team titles at the following show, the Royal Rumble.
Nice. Nicely done.
Yes, I'm
you really made up for that garage business and that other
the freshening up.
Viscera freshening up.
But I'm curious about this battle royal. I'm a fan of battle royals. I know sometimes they could be a little chaotic, but that adds to the fun for me.
Yeah, they're a mess, but they're fun. God, I remember as a kid seeing in Detroit like years and years and years ago when they'd have like 2 rings set up. And it'd be like, and they would always promote that like a double ring battle royale. And then they'd pull out and be like, there's going to be 2 rings. And I'm like, wow. And I remember going to, I was like 10 years old or something, going to one and then seeing like, but then the matches would just be in 1 ring. It was really weird. Like, this looks weird. Just an empty ring. And then at the end, they would have, just all these people in 2 rings and be like, oh, that was just nothing. No reason for that other than the week before on TV to be like, so huge, there needs to be 2 rings. Just always. I
always look forward to it, and then it's just like, oh, there's too many people in the ring for anyone to be able to do any spots. It's just punch kick.
Yeah, I know. And then sometimes it's fun to watch them because you really can peel off and look at someone like, like, oh, what do we do? Like, just choke me in the corner. Like, hey, so-and-so's being choked for... Like, surely he would be dead. That guy has the strength to strangle him in 3 minutes, and then like, oh, start strangling me now.
Another trope I like is when a guy is like walking to another person to attack, and then someone hits them from behind, but they weren't anticipating it, so they just no sell it.
Exactly.
They have to get there.
Yeah, or the late sell. Oh, yeah. Ow. Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's okay. So then we have D'Lo Brown challenging for the European title against the man that he lost the title to, the British Bulldog. The announcers let us know about this, and immediately the posse who's hanging out with Bulldog are barred from ringside. And at one point, D'Lo throws Bulldog to the outside, and the ref is pushing him back, distracted. And Val Venus, who is actively in a feud with British Bulldog and facing Bulldog at the pay-per-view, attacks Bulldog. D'Lo is upset because Val Venus is ruining his match and his opportunity. D'Lo attacks Val. It's a 3-way scuffle, I think, leading to what will eventually be a triple threat match.
I always enjoyed triple threats. And then that's another thing to always talk about, too, is some of these triple threats, gimmicks, 4-ways, they seem to be overdone, but you got to remember, this is 24 years ago. This is the beginning of things.
I feel like, like at this point, this is one of the early, WWE only just started doing triple threats.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the first one I ever saw was in WCW, where it was the way they did theirs was that there would be a person on the apron, like a tag team match, and they would have to be tagged in, which didn't make sense. Why would anyone tag out? Then ECW would do the 3-way dance, which was my favorite version, where all 3 are in the ring at the same time.
Right.
And I like the phrase 3-way dance. I thought that was a cool turn of phrase. And then WWE kind of...
it sounds almost a little sexual, like a menage a trois. A 3-way dance.
I like it then. And then WWE coined the term triple threat.
Yeah.
And doing it. So yeah, you're right. And this is, I feel like D'Lo in the match makes it more exciting because then there's a face to root for.
Yeah.
Because Val Venus is still a heel right now.
And I like him too, because there's so many just wrinkles to be like, if it's for a championship, it'd be like, technically your championship someone could lose their championship when they weren't pinned. If you know what I mean, those funky rules. And so people can come out of it. I'm pissed off because of the, all kinds of things. And that just were interesting for, for the agents to work out like, oh, wow, someone's always got to be selling, or, you know what I mean? There was a lot of, it was a little bit of a conundrum for them to work out good. And I've, seen some some really good ones. So I like them.
Stephanie's backstage in the garage, and a limo pulls up. She's all like ready to, she has her mean face on, and she opens the door, and she's confronted by her attacker.
Right.
I thought this was played perfectly. The moment she sees him, she freezes up and runs away. She's afraid of him.
Yeah.
Which is like totally logical. Like absolutely made sense. I loved it. And Triple H, being the disgusting, dastardly heel, just yells out, "Honey, I'm home."
Yeah. You know, just a really dumb, quick, simple little thing, but I thought it was great too. And just her running away with her hands on her face. Just
like
perfect. Yeah. Perfect fucking, you know, non-acting acting or whatever you want to call it, you know, or it is acting, you know, certainly. And again, like we said before, so much mileage out of a limo pulling up. You know, it's so dumb, but it's so much more than like, oh, I'm coming into a room or someone's around the door or whatever. But it's just oh, limo pulling up. Oh, she's, and then just explaining it. Really just like a non-thing that's kind of like, oh, that really worked. That just, it all like adds up. It's like nothing said, nothing really written. One like line, "Honey, I'm home," just perfectly played. Really just reminds you. And then later, like, she's vulnerable and crying. He's an asshole. Just keep that alive, you know, keep that burning, and, you know, and just add it and stack it.
Oh, we learned that the Arrowhead Pond is the home of WrestleMania 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want early access to tickets, you can go to WWF.com to print out a mail order form.
Yeah.
Which is the only way you can get tickets. I was just thinking about how crazy that is. Yeah. In the sense that you're like, yeah, give me section 100 or whatever, you know, like you can't even pick your seat. Like now you could pick your specific seat that you're sitting in, or get assigned one, whatever. But it's just a crapshoot. Like, here's some money. Give me a seat.
Technology. Well, you know, it's funny because wrestling, as you know, if you look through all the eras of like, it was always at the ahead of the curve of like 900 numbers and, you know, this fucking bullshit, you know, how tickets are, you know, so I'm sure at the time, you know, that shit was just frantically changing, you know, besides like online or no, because I remember like fooling with like 800 numbers. Those are easy because then, you know, we can not have many people man the phones and people would wait, you know what I mean? And, you know, this is another version, mail in, you know, or what have you, like just always looking for different ways and, you know, that changing till it all went online.
Ruined it.
Arrowhead Pond, one of the nicest arenas.
Oh, I've never been.
Yeah. Nice facilities backstage, the garage, spacious, but just you know, just your perfunctory arena, but just like everything was like nice. The wood, the, you know, the offices, the boxes, I
remember they loved running there. That before Staples Center, they would be there all the time.
Yeah, it's really right there. It was a little easier to get to, you know. You know, usually they would be stacked, but you know, LA, Staples Center, Orange County, but yeah. Nice arena. Nice folks. Now it's not, what is it now? It was the Honda Center? I don't know what it is now. They change all the time.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what it is now. So all of DX is in the ring now. They have a shopping cart of presents. DX without Triple H. He's not there yet. So X-Pac cuts his promo on Kane, setting up their match at the pay-per-view. The Outlaws cut a promo on Mankind and The Rock. Billy Gunn insults Mick Foley's book. How dare he? And then they introduce Triple H. Triple H comes out to No Chance in Hell. He's in a great mood. And he's wearing the Vince mask that the special ref wore on Monday. How did he get it? Maybe he got his own.
I don't think they were
selling them probably. I think there were a few. It was like him, Steve Austin, Mick Foley. There's this like really terrifying Mick Foley mask.
Yeah.
These lifelike ones. Yeah. Maybe Undertaker as well. What I loved is he takes the Vince mask off and then he puts on that Harley Davidson cap that he's wearing because he doesn't want his frizzled hair to show. He needs to control. I guess he doesn't want it to get in front of his face and in his mouth as he's talking.
It is a heat-seeking cap too. It's kind of douchey.
Well, you know, no offense to Triple H, but it's the Shane Douglas heat-seeking cap. He did it first.
Unfortunately, our courts are backed up here. Our pro wrestling courts are backed up with gimmick infringement cases, and that one's so low, I don't even think
it's
we'll
pretty
get
low.
to it.
It's pretty low. So DX got him a gift. First off, I like that Billy Gunn shines up his wedding ring for him with his t-shirt.
Yeah.
They're really milking it. DX got Triple H a gift. It's a family portrait. It's a McMahon family portrait with a bad Photoshop of Triple H in a McMahon family photo. Triple H quips that he didn't think anybody could have a bigger head than Vince because Triple H's head looked a little bigger there.
And that was another case of just remembering like coming up with things like last minute or how they change is kind of like, oh, well, you're booking it, writing it like, oh, we come back and it'll be DX in there. And, oh, they should all have something to do with this. And then at some point, I don't know who, at some point, like, you know what? Wait a minute. Let's just have DX. And like, it's so big. We're wasting an entrance from Triple H because he's such a fucking asshole in this whole thing. I remember being like, oh, separate that. Like, oh, that's good. Because then just like weird little things like that help so much to be like, well, there's DX, but where's Triple H? Oh, and they're assholes and they got things to say. And then, oh, here's the music. Oh, you just to spread it out and enhance it and make it bigger. Since this is inside baseball minutia.
No, that absolutely makes sense just because it also positions Triple H as the main event guy, and they're they're his posse. Plus, they have their own programs that they have to sell. And if Triple H was in the ring as they're selling their programs, it would overshadow what they're saying because all the heat's on Triple H right now.
Right.
So they all give him gifts. He got the painting. Then Xbox says he has a gift. He gives a gift box, says it's something that will look great on Stephanie. Triple H opens it. There's nothing in the box. And he goes, exactly.
Yeah.
Road
I think
Dogg.
I lost that one. I remember thinking like it should have been like split crotch panties or something, or a negligee. Or
I agree. That would have had a bigger effect of just like Triple H lifting it up, like, oh, this would look great on you. Like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, how dare you?
And then just even the joke, like, on the wedding night, she'll be nude. All right. But anyways, doesn't matter. But that's the great thing about fucking douchey heels. They can do a bad joke and like, oh, you think that's funny. It's not even funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more they laugh, if they laugh, and then it kind of works. It's kind of foolproof. It doesn't come off as it's a lame joke. Yeah, lame joke delivered by a smart ass heel who loves it and thinks it's funny. Foolproof.
So Road Dogg's gift is a front row ticket for Armageddon so that Stephanie could sit front row and watch Triple H beat her daddy. And we learned that the match is now anything goes, which is always a smokescreen for a performer who is not the best professional wrestler. There needs to be.
How dare you?
There needs to be a few things thrown in there.
How dare you?
Smoke and mirrors.
How dare you?
But it makes sense in this. I would just say I think it would have worked more if Vince McMahon said this would be an anything goes match, because he doesn't want anything to stop. Like, why does Triple H get to decide this is an anything goes match? What authority does he have?
You're right.
I win.
Yeah, you win. You win that one. But then again, all things add up. Like, oh, fuck it. When is he going to say it? Then then you're modular. So then he's going to come out and confront him. And is that too much to be like, what about the match? Just you knew it. So yeah, but plenty of ways to skin the cat.
Yeah. But it's fine.
Yeah.
Then Test arrives asking a tech if he's seen Stephanie. Test, you're a little late. The show started an hour ago.
Yeah.
And again, like, you haven't seen her this whole time? You didn't like go to like comfort her? Well,
he's been trying to find her. You ever go back in those garages? Lots of room, lots of, it's not easy to track someone down. Remember, cell phones weren't that evident. It wasn't like,
You're right.
It wasn't.
Yeah, cell phones were very expensive back then. I remember.
Yeah.
It was like
and just
100 minutes and free nights and weekends.
And unreliable, especially in the big garage.
Mankind finds The Rock backstage and tells him that Al Snow is mad at him. Rock asks Mankind if he thinks he's afraid of a man named Al. And then Snow attacks The Rock from behind. I was very impressed by this.
Yeah.
And Mick Foley has to break it up. He doesn't want to watch his two best friends fight it out.
Right.
I'm really enjoying this. Mick Foley then comes out to the arena and he thanks the fans for making his book #1 because he said it's obviously not the critics or anyone, bashing people for knocking the book. Chris Jericho comes out and says everyone hates Mick Foley. And the only reason anybody bought his book is because they thought that Mick would die at the end. Which that was a great line.
Yeah. I don't know where that line came from, but that's excellent.
Yeah. Y2J challenges Foley so that when Chris writes his book, which he did eventually do, his first chapter will be how in Anaheim, Jericho ended the career of Mike Foley.
Nice.
My favorite bit from Jericho, mispronouncing people's names, to act like he's bigger than them. He's too big to have to learn their names.
Right. Well, and just always like everyone should take a nod from him to be like, instant heat. Just give me the microphone. I got a few quips and the way I deliver it, instant heat. He just has it. He has that ability to do that, and that's it.
No, he's great. This is peak Jericho here. And they have a pretty good match. They clearly work very well together.
Yeah, and it was great because I was interested just to be like, for some reason, like, oh, well, that's weird. Chris Jericho versus fucking Mick Foley. What's that going to be like? It just was like, it was intriguing.
It definitely felt like almost like a house show thing because it's like they're in two completely separate programs. They're not at all. They're nowhere near each other. Yeah. But they end up in this match.
Yeah.
And it works. They have a very fun match. And this is a match where both guys need to be protected. So I do think a run-in is justified here. Chyna and Miss Kitty come out. Both look phenomenal. Miss Kitty distracts the ref and Chyna hits Jericho with her Intercontinental title.
Nice.
Jericho is dazed. Mick Foley goes to pick up Sacco. Jericho shoves Foley. Foley knocks into Miss Kitty, who's still on the apron, post-ref distraction. And Mick Foley, being the gentleman that he is, turns around to check on Kitty, leading to Jericho to be able to get a quick roll-up and the victory.
Yep.
Foley is not happy. He's very upset with himself.
I would push back on one thing. To me, what made Mick Foley the greatest of all time in many respects is like, he doesn't need to be protected. That fucking guy could lose 20 in a row and fucking slop around and then get instant heat and fucking, you know what I mean? And be, you know what I mean? If anything, like, just, he fucked up. Oh, why'd you fuck up? I'm goofy. I'm stupid. I fucked up. I did this. I got distracted. Oh, now I need heat. Now I'm vicious. Now I'm ready to win. He's fucking unbelievable like that. All these things that kind of fall into other wrestlers would be like, oh, this problem. That person's now going to just go down because they lost. None of that, in my opinion, applies to Mick Foley. And it's the greatest compliment I think I could give him.
And Jericho needs wins right now. He just lost to Chyna. His credibility is a little damaged. And he hasn't been in the company as long as Foley has. He's not near as over. Right. So this was a useful tool.
And also he was over losing a little comedically before, you know what I mean? And when he was like, oh, he's over, but he's losing. And that was kind of like part of it. So now that's kind of past and he's on this trajectory. I agree. It does make sense for him to like be protected here. And obviously, he went on to bigger things.
We get a quick update on Steve Austin and learn that he does, in fact, need to have neck surgery. So the man is going to be gone for quite a while, unfortunately. His presence sorely missed on the show.
Yep.
But, you're not missing a beat, though.
Let the roster do its thing. What a roster.
Kurt Angle comes out. It's been a month and he's super comfortable on the mic now. Like compared to that first promo to now, it's night and day. Like he knows exactly what he needs to say, when to pause, when to get the heat.
Yeah.
It was very impressive.
Yeah, he's incredible. And it's good to be locked into something. I think a lot of people, I still see this a lot today, like, well, I'm smoldering and I'm cool on the mic or whatever, where he had an advantage to be like, oh, you're uncomfortable and you're weird and you're a deer in headlights. He had something already locked in that kind of he could quickly grab onto, and now He's 100%. It's amazing.
Oh, also no proto right to censor here.
Yep.
That's been scaled back because of what we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Lawler with a quip. If I had a son, I'd want him to be just like Kurt Angle. Because, of course, Lawler has a son.
Yes.
It's Grandmaster Sexay.
Yeah. Smart Mark's inside humor.
Angle said that while, being an Olympic hero, it is a little degrading to team with a black belt, but still, he'll give Steve Blackman a chance. Steve Blackman comes out and, man, he just looks like a brick house. Just
he's
insane.
ridiculous. Yeah.
I would not want to mess with this guy. I would not even want to fake fight with it. I want to be nowhere near this guy.
No, it's so weird when you think of, there's a thing called in a lot of all sports, the eyeball test. And you just see Steve Blackman just like, oh, okay. Because first of all, he looks like an action figure and it's like a bodybuilder. Then you just see that, the way he pops up and that balance and that athleticism. Just the eyeball test is like, oh, this guy's fucking killer.
Yeah.
There's no, well, you don't know. Has he been? Fuck you. He's a fucking killer. Look at him.
I would argue action figures look out of shape compared to Steve Blackman.
It's preposterous.
Just insane.
Well, and the thing when you watch him move, like the only thing that's unnatural in is the selling, because he's like, I don't know how to sell.
Yeah. This match was a little chaotic, so they take on the Headbangers, and both he and Kurt Angle are the inexperienced ones in the match. They don't have too many reps under their belt with pro wrestling.
Right.
So it was a little chaotic. I feel like
Sure.
It seemed like there were points where either of them were lost. The ref had to kind of guide them.
Yeah.
But still fun. They obviously get the win.
And while he's watching Blackman, just the way he pops up, like, and just like that, like to be that size, there's just like the quickness and the balance you just see is like kind of preposterous in a guy like who's like, he's over 250. You know what I mean? It's kind of preposterous.
And imagine the diet he had to be. And if you look up what he looks like now, it's not that different.
No, he's got like a little he got a little age around the eyes.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So Test knocks on Stephanie's door. They finally see each other. For the first time in 4 days, we're supposed to believe that they've seen each other. She hugs him. She says she's sorry. She doesn't know what to do. She asks Test if he still loves her. Test, very confused, says he doesn't know what to feel anymore.
Yeah.
And he walks out.
Nice.
Steph breaks down. This is so soap opera.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm just like, Test, why are you mad at Stephanie? What did Stephanie do wrong? I guess you could argue he wonders, is she in on it? Or
why
what?
didn't
why
she
is he
tell him?
looking like a fool?
And also, what did he say? He's confused. He doesn't know how to feel.
He doesn't know what to feel. Yeah.
What are you going to do? Right? Put yourself in his shoes. Damn it.
If I put myself in his shoes,
right.
I would feel bad. I would still want to marry the love of my life.
Would you?
Right? I would want her.
After you saw the love of your life on that Titantron screen in the car.
But she wasn't an active participant.
Well, let's say that's
drugged.
you. Well, that's you, damn it. That's you. But you can't find it in your heart to just give some compassion to someone who all they said they were confused and they didn't know how to feel. He didn't condemn her. He just doesn't know.
I have a lot of compassion for Tess because, like I said, this whole time he's looked like a herb.
Oh.
So I mean, I understand it. He's got to have something here. He's got to say something.
He's confused.
No, but I like this. I like this because if he was just like, oh, don't worry about it. It's not your fault. We'll figure it out. Where's the tension? That's not fun.
And also, we don't know. I mean, we don't know like why. You can always question, why would he feel like that? What do we not know? Why would he have suspicions? Maybe.
And this just puts more heat on Triple H. Look at this beautiful couple that he's broken up, who've done nothing to him. These two have done nothing. I guess Test maybe, but but they broke his nose. So Then we have the biggest super heavyweight match of the evening: Rikishi versus Crash Holly. We have Hardcore Holly on commentary. The announcers are asking if Crash is a super heavyweight. They're debating if he's a super heavyweight. Hardcore defends him that absolutely said that he weighed in at like 500 pounds this morning.
Yeah.
Rikishi enters, and the announcer asks Hardcore if Rikishi's a super heavyweight. Hardcore says he just made the cut.
Yeah. I enjoy Bob Holly on mic.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Especially during this point when he like finds his confidence. He's no longer a spark plug. He's just himself.
Yeah. Well, also he's got that, like, he's smart where it's just like, he's just confident. He's not, you know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. Like, don't try too hard on the fucking mic. You know what I mean? Just be. And he's got that to me. I enjoy him.
Rikishi makes quick work of Crash, obviously. It was like maybe 2 or 3 moves. And then they just start dancing, and Hardcore is upset at Crash. But what I noticed is how many people in the crowd start dancing along with Rikishi and Too Cool.
Yeah.
Like it's just starting and it's already so hot.
It just, it trumps all logic. It trumps everything. You know what I mean? It's like any kind of talk of like, well, Rikishi, what a force. Should he be in the, just, he's fucking dancing. Listen to it. It was unreal how huge it was. And, you know, just milk it. Like, just milk it.
It's working. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
The Rock versus Al Snow. Obviously, The Rock's winning this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Rock is the main eventer. He's the number one guy right now. He's not losing to Al Snow. No offense, Al.
All right.
But it was a good match, and it was interesting because so The Rock wins. As soon as the match is over, the New Age Outlaws, who are facing Rock and Mankind at the pay-per-view, come out to attack The Rock, get the better of The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And Al Snow joins them because he's not a fan of The Rock.
Right.
Mankind runs out with a chair, scares off the New Age Outlaws. They run out. Al Snow's still in there attacking The Rock. Mankind says, Al Snow, you've gone too far. He says so with his actions. He's not actually saying this stuff. And he scares Al Snow off, and he even goes to swing a chair at Al, showing he's not above that because Al has gone too far.
Right.
I like this wrinkle.
Yeah.
Will be interesting to see how this settles on Monday.
You know, kind of like part of the setup, which unfortunately all that kind of let in that parent-teacher stuff too. The thing was to peel him off and for him to be, you know, a lone, misunderstood psycho. You know what I mean? You know, it
does seem like that's what you're building towards.
We were building
backstage vignettes
towards that, and even bigger because that was all based in which I loved so much was like, you know, the parent television council and the severed head, which wasn't a severed head, and everyone going like, you're sick, and like, no, I'm not, and like, you know, so he could be just that kind of like half humorous, half misunderstood, poor psychotic weirdo who, you know, lunatic weirdo that, you know, is misunderstood.
Absolutely. And I thought that was the main event, but there was in fact one more match.
Mm-hmm.
It was this felt like a great house show main event. It was the New Age Outlaws and X-Pac versus Hardys and Big Show. It definitely felt like you guys were just like, get out there and go have a great match.
Yeah. Yeah, know? Exactly. And also
they did.
Put the champ later, you know, put the Big Show later, you know, and
right.
Like, don't forget
like
about
the
him.
Big Show.
Yeah.
A Big Show has been a bit of an afterthought. We've been discussing this on the show ever since winning the title. He's been kind of put in the background just because the focus is so strong on this McMahon Triple H story. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you recognize that, and you do always try to give him something on the show, like as you're doing here, like pencil him into this program.
Exactly right. And then that's fun when things are working. Like, oh, there's so much weird business left and right, and all this stuff about the family, and then like sometimes you get to just go, oh, have a championship match. It is, you know, it is still sports entertainment, you know, so you can kind of like go back to that is kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. We always have that to fall back on. That's what it is, you know? So.
And so, this is very, very fun. I'm really enjoying watching, like I mentioned earlier, the Hardys develop and the audience kind of find them because the Hardys were my guys. They were my avatar during this moment. They were the ones I was rooting for so much. And so it's cool to see them spotlighted. And I feel like DX were very generous with them as well, letting them shine a lot and even giving them the win. There was a cool spot where Jeff Hardy did a swanton bomb off the shoulders of the Big Show. I love a big guy, little guy team up like this. This is great. Like a Andre the Giant spot from 30 years before or whatever.
Right.
The finish happens when Matt Hardy does a sunset flip off the top rope to X-Pac, gets the win, and in this case, I think it's warranted that X-Pac kicks out at 3.5. This isn't a veteran bitter that he has to do the job and showing that he could win. In this instance, it makes sense because it shows they just got him. Like they were so fast that they just squeezed it out because X-Pac is higher on the totem pole than the Hardys, way more experience. So this is an upset.
Right.
So I thought it was very well done. It if anything, it made the Hardys look cooler because it's like they're so fast you don't even know when you're going to get pinned.
Sure, absolutely.
The show ends with Big Boss Man running out because, of course, Big Show is still feuding with Big Boss Man.
Yep.
Boss Man attacks Big Show with the nightstick, attacks the Hardys with the nightstick. DX attacks as well. And again, much like the Thanksgiving food fight, it ends with everyone who's feuding with these people running out for a big schmaz.
It was a schmaz, but it was a little bit of business. It was reconnecting the dots of all the, the feuds and what have you.
That's true. You're building up all the paper. The pay-per-view is a little over a week away. There's two more shows before the pay-per-view. So it's a
reconnect the dots schmaz. I just made that up. Put that in the pro wrestling glossary.
But I do love that. It's interesting. You don't ever run down the card. You just have to listen to the announcers to run down the card. I'm thinking you do run down the cards on shows like Heat, Jacked, those shows. Jacked. But on the main shows, you don't got time. You got rating.
You have an RTD schmaz. What's that? Reconnect the dots schmaz. You gotta remind everyone. Like, oh right. Oh yeah, they still hate each other, and that's coming up. Yeah.
And look, I think you've built up the pay-per-view excellently. There's a lot of great feuds and they're climaxing, they're peaking just at the moment that you need them to peak.
For whatever reason, Rock and Austin, there's something, those run-ins you don't tire of. It's the Rock, even just his style.
Yeah.
Somehow
you want to see the Rock.
Yeah. Somehow those two specifically, I don't know why they're just like you never tire of their run-ins, And, other times they're like, sometimes when someone's too big, they lumber a little, or whatever. But they never tire of Rock's run-ins.
I'm excited to see where things go from here. Like I said, we only have 2 more.
You are? We know. This was 25 years ago, buddy.
Well, I know the big story beats. I guess what I'm saying is I'm very curious about the in-between moments that I don't remember. I remember what happened at the pay-per-view, but
this should be
before the pay-per-view.
If Twilight Zone still existed, that'd be a good episode. Some wrestling podcaster starts watching, and the old shows they're different, and he can't tell any of his friends. Oh, that would be cool. It's changing, don't you know? What are you talking about? No one cares. Oh no, the outcomes are different. The champ became the jobber. Oh, what's happening? I'm in an alternate wrestling universe where The Rock never got over.
It ends with I'm in the ring losing the title, and whoever the champion is watching me lose and being like, no, that's not how it goes.
And you're mentioning, what about The Rock? The Rock? Oh, you mean that guy Rocky Maivia who never got over? What are you talking about? Steve Austin. Oh, me. Oh, stunning Steve Austin with the blonde hair. He does WCW. And what happened to him? What are you guys talking about? It's a world without Rock and Austin. That'll be our alternative reality podcast. What if
Fables from the Attitude Era?
What if The Rock and Austin never got over?
I like it.
Yeah. Stay tuned. That's for our Western Heritage listeners. All right.
Folks, we're so excited that you're listening. You made it this far.
Yeah.
Clearly, you must like the show. Let us know. Give us some feedback. Leave a comment. Rate us on your streaming platform of choice. That always helps. And send us some emails. tftattitudeera@gmail.com. Tales from the TFT. And that's also our social media handle on Instagram, on TikTok.
Yeah. Thanks for
Twitter,
listening. No one's having more fun than me. This is just like, therapy for me. Like, oh, look at this old stuff that happened. Why? And,
so what did this mean?
Yeah. No, it's good. It's interesting for,
Yeah.
All right, man.
We're having a great time. We hope you are as well. And we'll see you next time on Tales From the Attitude Era,